The whole of our lives is a journey between two breaths. The first breath when we are born and the last breath before we die. In the last 5 years, I've started paying attention to all of the breaths in between. I started research on freediving, which has been described as the second most dangerous extreme sport. My preferred research methodology is full immersion, actually becoming the thing I'm trying to understand. Freediving, or breath hold diving, at its most basic, is just holding your breath and diving underwater. It's both a commonplace and unique form of engagement between humans and oceans. Commonplace because we can do it from the moment we are born. We've already spent 9 months in the watery world of the amniotic sac. If you immerse an infant in water, she will open her eyes, hold her breath, slow her heartbeat, and start to swim breaststroke. But also unique because it's recently been reinvented as an extreme sport. Divers are going 200 metres and more underwater on a single breath, and there are people who can hold their breath for 11 minutes underwater. And it is an extreme sport. We are terrestrial air-breathing mammals. To take yourself very deep underwater on one breath and with no ancillary equipment is inherently dangerous. Parallel to the competitive aspect, freediving has been rapidly increasing around the world as a recreational activity, and that's partly because, paradoxically, many people find they can rapidly improve in freediving. I went from a breath hold of 1 minute to 4 minutes quite quickly, and many of you would too. Freediving explores the limits of the human body, and to do it, it engages what's been described as the most powerful autonomic reflex we have, the mammalian dive response. The MDR slows our heartbeat, withdraws oxygen from our extremities to our core, and eventually releases oxygen-rich blood from our spleen into the rest of our body, all of those things enabling greater access to oxygen. That reflex connects us to our ancient evolutionary origins in the ocean. The ocean is 70% of the planet's surface and 99% of its living area. The fluids in our body, our tears, our blood, reflect the chemical composition of ancient oceans. The ocean is inside us all as well. While I had been researching freediving and actually freediving for several years, I was failing to adequately write about it. The normal academic expression is objective, removed, dispassionate, and I repeatedly tried and failed to produce an academic paper in that vein which was describing what I was experiencing. So eventually I took myself to a writing retreat, threw away all the previous attempts and started from scratch. And instead of having an idea and writing that down, I let the writing process find the ideas. I used the personal or lyric essay form, and it helped me to explain, it freed me to explain what freediving had done to me. What freediving had done to me is to help me face mortality. When I was 14, my father killed himself. My mother had left when I was 11. Those two events predictably had a big impact on my life. For most of my life, I felt marginal, I feel like an imposter in my jobs, I expect rejection. I've failed to understand my father's suicide my entire life. Freediving showed me a different way to think about death. The writing retreat in the bush let me link my personal experience of loss with my research on freediving. It is called Salt Blood and won the 2017 Calibre Essay Prize. It's 6,000 words long, unreferenced, and has had the single greatest impact and engagement of anything I've ever written. The essay is a writing form that traces its origin from Michel de Montaigne, whose essays were published in 1580, immediately became a bestseller and are still in print. Montaigne wanted to decolonise writing, free it from its conventional constraints. The French verb essayer means to try, so it's about opening up, questioning, acknowledging limitations, not nailing something down with expertise. It's humble, messy, and entangled in the life of the writer. In Salt Blood, I take Ariel's song from Shakespeare's play The Tempest as the link between the freedive research and my father's suicide. Full fathom 5 thy father lies, of his bones a coral made, those are pearls that were his eyes. Nothing of him but doth fade, but has suffered a sea change into something rich and strange. When you're freediving 5 fathoms underwater, more than 10 metres, you're not breathing. Freediving medically is progressive asphyxiation. Asphyxiation is what killed my father. So in Salt Blood, I tried to take a research story and connect it to a hard personal story in the hope that would find some reflection in the lives of my readers. It turns out that the Calibre Prize has a lot of cred. I was invited to a lot of seminars, to give readings, and was many media interviews. I was interviewed on Richard Fidler's Conversations and a number of other programs, and many readers personally contacted me. One of the outcomes of those contacts was readers sharing their own experience of suicide and loss. My writing about that, the place of that in my own life, opening a space for people to communicate gently about those issues for themselves. And that's not so surprising. In Australia, suicide is the leading cause of death for people between the ages of 15 and 45. My father was 45. The philosopher Simone Weil wrote of making visible the possibility of death that lies locked up in each moment. Herman Melville in Moby Dick put the same thought into the whaleboat. It is only when caught in the swift, sudden turn of death that humans realise the silent, subtle, ever-present perils of life. I didn't start freediving to understand mortality, but that is where it led me. Freediving takes you to a liminal space between light and darkness, between water and air, between life and death. Freediving is about life and death, both personally, individually, and in a planetary species sense. It links us to our deep evolutionary origins in the ocean and reminds us of our humility, that we are just one among innumerable other beings living and dying on the planet. And it connects us both to our strengths and reminds us of our insignificance. The lessons to me from the research and the writing are about carpe diem, seizing the moment, not worrying about the things that you can't change, telling people that you love them, about humility, about being present, about the universality of loss in all of our lives, and about how loss is maybe not always loss, but sometimes change. And finally, about the power of stories. Humans have been described as the storied animal. German author Franz Kafka said, "Writing should be an axe to smash the frozen sea inside us." He knew both about the power of art, the power of story, and that there is a frozen sea inside us. I'm an academic, a human geographer. Geography means earth writing, and the planet is 70% ocean. Giving myself to the salt water helped free my voice. Writing in a personal and creative way changed the way I think about my purpose here. If, as researchers, we recruit our communication skills to engage with broad and diverse audiences to tell our stories, we can broaden our purpose here. All of our lives is a journey between 2 breaths. Where are we each on that journey today? None of us know. So it's worth being present with however many breaths we have left, worth being present with our humility, with the change, with the loss, with the love in all of our lives. Thank you.